would you react in the moment of a major disaster? Some of us would run, others would panic, but a few end up as heroes. That's what happened on January 13th, 1982, when one man came face to face with the unthinkable. Roger Olean was headed home from work on a snowy day in Washington, D.C.
The traffic was really stalled, and the driver in front of me stopped, and he got out of his car and ran back to my car. And he said, "Did you see it? The plane just went down in the river." He said, "It's going to blow up. I'm afraid it's going to blow up."
Roger wasted no time and sprung into action.
As I was running down the bank towards the Potomac River, there were several people in the water around that tail section calling for help. I didn't hesitate. I just jumped right in the water. I didn't know exactly what I could do when I got out there, but at the very least, they would see that someone was doing something.
Slabs of ice in the freezing water helped Roger find his way to victims, but after a few minutes, he had nothing left to hold on to.
And I thought, if I do that last 15 feet, that I'm probably not getting out of here. It was at that time that I heard a helicopter.
Roger did the unthinkable, and he'll never regret risking his life to offer others hope of saving their own.
The truth of it is, I knew I was capable of doing something, and not doing it would be too hard to live with.
Amanda Ripley is the author of the new book, The Unthinkable. She's here with more on how we react in the face of unimaginable events. Amanda, good morning. Thanks for being with us. You also wrote an article, How to Survive a Disaster. Why do survival stories interest you so much? What's the fascination there with that?
You know, I covered 9/11 and I covered Hurricane Katrina and lots of other disasters in between around the world. And I found myself really mesmerized by the stories of survivors themselves, the remarkable things they had experienced physically, psychologically, even socially in the midst of the disaster. And there was a lot that we could learn from those experiences, but it wasn't part of our national conversation about emergency preparedness.
Now, in order to write the story, you also had to be the story. You put yourself in harm's way for a lot of this to really get an inside perspective. What did you learn from that?
You know, I think the #1 thing I learned was to appreciate the effects of smoke, actually. That's something that we generally don't realize is the main event in many disasters, and it totally changes everything. So you can't see your hand in front of your face. You become, I went through a burn tower in Kansas City with the fire department there, where they fill this building with smoke, non-toxic smoke, luckily for me, and you have to find your way out, and it is really overwhelming, and it makes you realize how important it is to understand how to get out of a place before anything goes wrong.
Well, tell me a little bit about that. What surprised you? What shocked you the most about the way people behave when they are in these emergencies?
I would say the #1 thing is that people almost never panic. It's very
unusual. They never panic, or they never should panic?
No, they never do.
Really?
Yeah, so it's really surprising. Very unusual conditions have to all be present at the same time, generally, for people to panic. So much more often, the bigger problem is actually the opposite, something called negative panic, where people shut down, literally stop moving. And I talked to survivors of sinking ships, of plane crashes, and they all had stories about seeing people who were physically okay, just sitting there with their hands crossed across, in their laps, doing nothing when they needed to really be running for their lives.
Amanda Ripley, thank you so much for being here. If you want to learn to strengthen your own survival skills and to read an excerpt from Amanda's book, head to our website, todayshow.com. And we'll be right back after these messages.